Okay, here we go. It's another day. So, Liquid Sky today. This is going to be a tough one. Mainly because I've designed myself into a corner. I've written so much code and failed to see a simple feature. And what that means is okay. What that means is that I have a requirement for some information that I actually can't get without major impact on several pieces of the system. So what I have to consider is, where do I add this information, right? Where does this information go to? Now there's an easy way of doing this, but that easy way is not really something I want to do. And I've kind of considered what it means to reach out and ask other people here, will anybody have the context I do of this platform? And they won't, right? Because unless you've been following very closely, you don't really get all the little pieces, right? And it's very hard to keep track of someone else's software when you have the code, let alone when you're just watching the code. So I have a design challenge, and I've got to overcome this challenge somehow, right? When I create a planning item from a ticket, I use the API, right? That's okay. And in that API, I expect there to be a user, right? So when I post this, I expect there to be a user identifier. But if I go over to where I actually do the promotion, right? When I call promote ticket, I pass all this information in, right? That's fine in the API thing. But in the actual application promotion subscriber, right? This ticket created by user that isn't what I need, right? Because I'm storing it on this side as the created by user identifier. The original user of the ticket is not the creator of the planning item. The person promoting the planning item is the creator of the planning item. So how do I handle that? Well, I know who is doing this, right? I know who is making this act, or who is performing this action of promoting the ticket. But I don't know here, right? I mean, okay, I pass it down there. But you can see it's grayed out because I actually have no use for it here because I don't care, right? Because of the way I've developed this, the overall scheme of the system kind of doesn't require a user beyond this phase. So one action here to fix this would be, okay, well, Mark is promoted. Well, GUID promoted by, right? I could do this, and I could track who promoted it. But then this pattern, is this a reasonable pattern going forward? Is what I've got to consider, because now I'm tying this into the event, right? So this ticket was promoted. Let's say this has now GUID promoted by user identifier, right? Public GUID promoted by user identifier. Let's see. So one of the benefits of streaming this is that I get to talk it through more, right? I get to talk it out in a way that I feel like I'm talking to a colleague, right? Sometimes that colleague is just sat there staring at you like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that's kind of the stream, right? If you understand what I'm doing, then you can join in. But obviously, I've got to treat the stream as if there's always somebody there. So it helps me to talk it through. So in here, if I do user identifier, command by user identifier, right? Now that is Marcus promoted, and now in here, promoted by user identifier. Now, do I care about this on the ticket? I probably do, because it is promoted, and a status of is promoted doesn't really mean very much if I'm not tracking who did the promotion. So I probably do want to track that. So let's do private GUID promoted by user identifier, public GUID promoted by user identifier, and this is nullable, obviously. And now we can set that in promote. But one of the things I was considering is that this isn't an uncommon thing to want to know who did something. But at the point I publish events out into the system, I have no idea who did the thing, right? So that's going to be challenging. This is easily fixed, but there's other patterns that don't necessarily fit this very cleanly that I might want to consider. So there is something I want to look at and consider. But thinking it through a little bit more, this isn't something I would necessarily want to do every time at this point, because it just becomes, okay, well, that's lazy. We can just promote it, because now on the other side of here, right? When we handle this event, right, we can say notification.promoted by user identifier. Now that goes to this service and then publishes that created by user identifier, right? Because that's the planning items. Actually, this is promoted. I think that is still promoted by user identifier. And then that is because it is part of the promotion process, right? So now we promote the ticket, we have the promotion, we capture that, do this, we publish that. Over here on this side, we need to capture that as, that's why it didn't set. So this, hi Sorcery, how you doing? Good day. This was prompted by the fact that I got into the endpoint and then I had 0 GUID. I was like, oh no, it's because I don't have that information. When I look back, I saw that I do have information, but it's the wrong information. And now I see it, it's because it was mapped incorrectly in the first place. So that small mistake cost me there. Hey, doing good? How you doing? Things are okay. Things are okay. I'm trying to make progress. I've been trying to get through this feature for the last couple of weeks. I haven't had much time off stream to work on things. So, and I've been doing the drink water app on Mondays and Tuesdays. So I haven't been back to this since the weekend properly. So I'm trying to make sure that I keep moving this project forward. So I'm struggling. How about you? How was your weekend? Did you get much progress done? So let's say this is promoted by user identifier. Let's say that's that. That's that. That's that. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. So again, I'm going to pass in promoted by user identifier, right? Here, this is created by, right? But again, I think for the purpose of being clear, I think it is promoted by user identifier still, because it is still in the product promote. Yeah, revamp the whole building system. A lot better now. I'm really happy with it. I have to figure out what to tackle next. Oh, nice. I look forward to seeing that. It's it was looking really good last week. And yeah, I know I keep pushing foundation, but it's kind of some of the mechanics of what you were doing were very familiar. There's some of the things in there that I think, you know, definitely feel very similar, and I think they work really well. But yeah, it was looking really cool. I'm really excited for that. The game looks awesome. Yeah, but I'm not pushing you to get distracted. It's more some of the mechanics in how the buildings come about and how jobs get assigned, etc., that feel familiar to what you're doing. And then there's some areas where it doesn't quite feel like it doesn't feel satisfact. You don't quite get the satisfaction from it because they're just doing these jobs and things. So the mechanics of how you assign people to buildings and they get the jobs and stuff and you get a fishery, and the fishery takes the thing they actually have to, in Foundation, you kind of have to set up like almost waste stations of storage areas for them to move resources to, so they can filter out. Otherwise, the fisherman has to go and take the fish all the way to the market, etc. So, you know, for efficiency and stuff. But there's all sorts of weird mechanics in there, but there's a lot of familiarity. So that's why I kept mentioning it. It was an educational jaunt, right? It's looking at how other people do it and figuring out, okay, these are the mechanics you want, right? I see it as education. You know, doing what I'm doing, education for this is really boring, right? Yeah, I know, but and I get it. I literally have a gaming PC to my side, and I cover it up with crap and stuff because I don't want to have to be distracted and go, oh, I'll just go play a game for a bit, right? I try and focus on what I'm doing, so I totally understand the mental focus. Okay, so that might actually do what I needed to do at this point, right? So let's try. So the challenge I've got at this point is I probably need to step back and do some little a little bit of work on the whole integrations testing side of things, because what I've now got is an ever more complicated system that's harder and harder to test on a daily basis, right? Because I can't just start this up and say, okay, I'm going to promote a ticket, because I don't have that data there. So maybe I need to create a data schema that is already in place that I can just make the call for. And I can definitely see why, you know, certain not doing. What is that arguing about? Come on. Oh my goodness me. Oh yeah, that's okay. That's us. Oh yeah, I need to move this somewhere. My dogs have not settled in days. They just keep crying and whining all the time. You take them out and they sniff, and you bring them back in and they cry and whine and want to go out again. So they're just chirping. So if you hear little noises in the background, I do apologize. Okay, so I need to open my placeholder. Yeah. Okay, Chrome. Open this. That's that. That's water, drink water, liquid sky, tenant management. You know, you think I'd know this password by now. Loki's taken to howling. Awesome. It's just what I need today. Okay, so we go back, go to tickets, go add a ticket, do this. We should be able to do testing promotion. Okay, so new ticket from me, promoted by me. What does this look like? So what I'm gonna do is make sure that this is going to go into. First, it goes into tickets, right? Don't do that to me. Right. So it goes into tickets first. Right. So now if I get tickets, why is that? That is because, yeah. Right, so now I can promote. So promote a ticket, that's ticket 1003. Okay, so that promoted. So go here, there's the promotion. It processed. If we go to planning items, there you go, there's our promoted ticket. So this was happening before, but there's our user ID. Okay, nice. So now we finally have a promotion. Because the way I'm doing this, the actual outbox pattern means that I do have a bit of resilience in this process. So even if the API is unavailable, the outbox will fail or should fail, right? So if I try and promote a different ticket, let's go back here. Let's create another ticket and let's go to testing unavailable. Planning item system is down. Right. Now we create this ticket and get, there you go. So now ticket 1004. So I shut down this endpoint and try and promote that ticket now. Hit send. This will work okay. Now my outbox should pretty much stay in a state of it isn't working. And if I go over here and go to tickets, I should see the errors log, right? No, no connection could be made because the target machine actively refused it. So this will happen every 10 seconds or so. Actually, it'll keep backing off up to, I think, a minute. It'll try again. Yeah, there you go, try it again. So this isn't going to stop trying until it actually gets there. So what this means is if this errors for whatever reason, because this particular request is bad, then the rest of the outbox is actually backed up behind it, which is dangerous. But honestly, I shouldn't be using this for this purpose, right? This is an internal notification system. So this shouldn't be doing this. But you see it'll fail again. Right. Now if we start this up, it's funny, I had a couple of weeks where my streams were pretty busy very early on. And now I've gone several streams in a row with very few people. Wonder what changed. Whether people got bored of this project. Okay, so that worked. So now that finally went, that processed. So again, it was almost 2 minutes afterwards, so that definitely was backed up. And I have the planning item over here. Planning system is down. There we go. So we have that working. So to go back to my because you like good RPGs and city building games, don't you? Remember correctly. Hey daughter, good morning. I've got the chat on that window again, and that's not good because then I won't see YouTube chat if it appears. I've got to stop reading to my right. I think I'm going to move that over out of the corner of my eye. Okay. So finally, after many weeks of trying to get this done, I do have some progress, right? So we are able to promote a ticket from the ticket system into the planning system. That mechanism is now pretty good, right? This isn't ideal. I do need to consider where this next piece lives, where this piece actually lives, but I think this now moves me forward. I can start talking about what it is I'm going to do next. Yeah, I would recommend, if you are interested in games, going checking out Sorcery's game. She's working on a really fascinating looking game. Just being honest, it's a fascinating looking game. Okay. Where does this live? Where does that iTicket promotion service live? Not an application, it's an infrastructure piece. Doesn't kind of live there. Not a domain service, is it? This is an infrastructure component by definition. But this is one of those things where only experience is going to get me over the line here, right? Only experience of using this architecture style is going to get me to feel more comfortable about making some of these calls. Beginner's guide. Please sign in. Right? Because I'm gonna keep getting stuck on what I consider. Right? Because again, everyone has this different, right? Domain model, models, business logic, business data sets, feature engineering, model training, evaluation. Right? Everyone has different opinions as to what makes up these components, right? Simplified, ports and adapters. Okay, so they're just... Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, they're all layers. Kamal, good morning. I'm doing good. How are you? Union versus hexagonal might be better. So I'm not looking for the differences. I'm just trying to look for some validation. The clean architecture. Because again, this is when software development gets messy, right? Because when you have a pattern that hasn't been used, or you have a component that hasn't necessarily been slotted into the architecture before, right? You have a decision to make as to where that lives. And it's very simple to make the wrong decision, right? Really simple. I can put this anywhere I want and it'll still function, right? See, frameworks and cloud services, interface adapters, request controller, job socket relay, application logic service, entity logic repos, right? So if we look at this ticket promotion service is kind of part of my domain, right? Is the act of promoting is something I do, right? If the application components are meant to coordinate, then this really is a domain service. But depending on which opinion you look at, right, HTTP stuff, API stuff, is not at the domain, it's at the application, or even outside on the infrastructure layer, right? Compose style. This isn't an entry point though. I'm using it as an outgoing. And again, the external interfaces. That's technically what I'm dealing with, right? For this particular component, that's an external interface. Let's have a look. So this is, by his own branding, this is the ultimate clean architecture example. This just makes noise to me. This is why I kind of like cancel subscription command as a command, because then it's kind of its folder and its behavior all in the same. You're not going to override this. Okay, so the application layer has these interfaces in it, right? I mean, essentially I have that there now, right? Because I have... What are you doing? Close it down. I mean, it's technically in my application layer now. So he would put that under common interfaces, right? So this would go to move to another folder. Common interfaces, right? He'd move that there. But again, that sounds more like a domain service than it does an application service. So I don't feel that's correct. But is it a domain service? He doesn't have many services. He doesn't have services in the domain. Now again, this promotion client is definitely an infrastructural component, right? An infrastructure can have access to the application. Looking at a random person's implementation. It's not a random person. It's a person widely accepted as an authority on the subject. That's why I'm looking. No. This is how do you pronounce his name? Amici Mantinband. He's a Microsoft architect and widely accepted as one of the experts on this subject. And he touts this as the ultimate clean architecture guide. So I'm not just making this up. And again, but this is what I've said all along, right? If I look at, right, so Ardalis, right, Steve Smith, right, I look up him, right, again, widely regarded as a DDD expert, right? He's a great presenter. But if I look at his clean architecture examples, right? And this has been my issue all along. It's not so much that I feel that I know any better. It's the fact that this is the problem that developers have all the time, right? We look at something that someone else has done. We try and repeat what they've done, but then we hit a difference. We hit a thing that their sample hasn't achieved. So what do we do? How do we get over that? Those are the tools that we that's the difference between a senior and a junior developer or an experienced versus an inexperienced developer, really. It's the ability to understand how to adapt code without breaking the code. A less experienced developer is going to go in and stuff things in and make things work. A more experienced developer is going to pause and think about how it slots into things. And all these architectural examples, all these people, I think Jason Taylor, clean architecture, is it Jason? Right. These people are on conference circuits. They are, hey, here's clean architecture, right? And each one of them does different things, right? Layout, structure. These are widely accepted experts on the subject, right? Uncle Bob is opinion more than actual implementation. If you look back on the amount of time I've looked at Uncle Bob stuff, it's all opinion based, right? He can back it up. He can develop software. There's no doubt about it. But most of what he shows is that's wrong. This is why you should do it this way, right? Very strongly opinion driven. These people are producing software, but their opinion on how that software should lay out and where pieces should lie is what I'm looking for here. And the thing I'm looking for right now is a blurred line, and they're not. Yeah, and this is where things get challenging, right? When you have to do this sort of stuff. So our Dallas, right? Clean architecture core services, delete contributor service, right? So his core is his domain, right? His implementation and his interface are all within here. If I put my implementation and interface of this service inside of here, well, this is an HTTP client. Is a domain service, is that okay? Does it make sense? Right? I'm just trying to validate my decisions and not break my application going forward, right? My application layer can have access to that, right? If I move this into domain, right? If this becomes tickets domain HTTP, I don't want to blur this with this necessarily. Exactly, right? So this is behavioral. So again, if I'm trying to follow along, then this is an infrastructure piece. If I'm unless I'm misunderstanding it, right? So, but in the ultimate version, this isn't well, it is IO. Yeah, because it's going to produce an event into Kafka, so that is IO. So the IO would go through infrastructure anyway. But oh my goodness me, dog, stop! He's not in a good mood today. So again, it's that thing. Domain is supposed to have no IO in it, right? Okay, so I've got to find an example of someone doing what I'm trying to do here, right? Where I have a need to invoke an HTTP service. Where do I put these components? To continue following along in this clean architecture style, whichever version of clean architecture we want to talk about, right? So I'm saying that the HTTP service lives inside of essentially this layer, the infrastructure layer. The application, he has common. This is Jason Taylor's, right? He has an identity service, a user, right? Identity service is HTTP actually. So where's the implementation of that identity service? Here we go. It's in infrastructure. So maybe this is right then. But again, it doesn't feel, because this is an actual component of my domain. It's an actual behavior in my system. I do this thing, right? So that's where that blurred line is, because if talking about system application behavior, then domain is meant to be where those things lie, but I can't have IO in the domain. So I mean, I'm willing to leave it like this. I think it does work. It achieves what I need to do, and ultimately, what this is going to become is this promotion service will be a actually. But eventually, it will be whatever the method I use, whether it be in Service Bus or Kafka, more likely in Service Bus, to actually do the promotion. Right now, it's an HTTP call, but that will go away because again, that's a weakness. It's not so much where I want to put the interface; it's more where do these things actually live. If I'm trying to stay on, rather than just adapt it. I'm trying to stay focused on at least trying to adhere to the expectation of what clean architecture is. Right? So in this instance, I'm using something that is not common in any of the examples that the accepted experts in this do. Right? So in Amichi's ultimate, I should stop sounding like I'm being snarky about that. I really do appreciate that this person guy knows an awful lot about software development, right? But it's more bugging me because it's like I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Realized that I did not put the recycle can out. Morning, Apex. How you doing? Oh, I timed that perfectly. Just came down. So I'm not going to overthink this. Actually, you know, maybe one day I get someone who is, you know, we can have a discussion about this sort of stuff in the future, right? Because I would love to know where people would put this piece, because it kind of crosses the line between, it is I/O, but it is also behavioral in the application. And overthinking it isn't going to help me here. I can refactor this. This is not the end of the world. But again, it sets a pattern. So if you start to introduce things like this, and other developers pick up on that pattern, the code can quickly get out of hand and become messier and messier. So that kind of takes me to, I have the ability to promote, finally, after what feels like months, this ticket becomes a planning item. We have something there. So one thing I was stuck on earlier on was actually the whole user. And I started to think about, oh, well, one of the things I lose with doing it the way I'm doing it is if I disconnect and produce an event, I don't know who did that event. Thank you for the follow, Murat. Welcome. So I kind of got into this thought of maybe I introduced a user profile that I could pass around the system, because then claims principle isn't passed. You don't have to pass the claims principle around, or I can inject that somewhere. I don't think that would necessarily do what I wanted to do. I think for right now, the solution of putting the actual user promoting the ticket on that event and capturing it on the actual record is the right thing to do. So let's roll that back. And I need to go into tickets, program, and I need to remove what I did for that user profile stuff, right? That's not healthy. I also need to capture, because again, how did that actually work? Oh, because I didn't map it, so I didn't even need it. Okay, that's why. So I have this ticket configuration, and now I need builder.property p dot promoted by user identifier dot has field promoted by user identifier. So anyone new to the stream, I am developing, this is a day of developing my Agile project management platform. This is a platform I'm working on because I believe that after many years as a software developer, I have some thoughts on how I would approach this challenge. And so I'm building this on stream. This is not open source at all at this point. This is aimed at being a product. So I work on this for 3 days a week. 2 days a week I work on Monday and Tuesdays I work on a project called Water Drink Water, which is aimed at being a more a viewer friendly and beginner friendly application for people to come in and join in with. So trying to accommodate the range a little bit, but also want to make sure I mix this up a little bit and make it a little bit more approachable. Because architectural decisions, conversations, etc., they only affect me on this, right? And you can't really get a feel for what I'm doing all the time because you're just seeing the code on the screen. So Water Drink Water is very much aimed at allowing us to have those sorts of conversations down the line with an application that everyone has a hand in. Okay, so I need to go to the scripts. I need to make sure that that ticket has really. I call them all tickets. Edit name. Create DB. Again, I think I need to refactor this a little bit and call it ticketing or something. But I'm not going to focus too much on that right now. And this is going to be promoted by user identifier. I actually don't have is promoted in there. Okay, so there's tickets. Okay, so I do have is promoted there, and I do need to modify this and add Column. So MySQL will support reordering columns. SQL Server does not. So you can kind of tell tables that I've modified after the fact by the fact that fields don't look in a reasonable order. Promoted by user identifier. But if it has a field if it is promoted, what if it's not promoted? Will it not have a promoted user ID? Yeah, I don't need is promoted. I can just use promoted by user identifier as the indicator that it's promoted. So I have some thoughts on how that's going to come around again anyway. Because I think the other side, once it's promoted, probably needs to do some sort of confirmation and say, yeah, this ticket was captured, and here's the reference. Because it would be able to kind of, again, this is where something like service bus definitely comes into play, because promotion could then become a saga, where I promote the ticket, and then once the planning item is confirmed and configured, like we said, just because it exists in the system doesn't mean it's been fully complete. Then once it's been configured and set up, it produces another event that then completes the promotion and records that information back. Unique identifier, not no, that's nullable. That's nullable, and we can get rid of promoted. It has no value, right? Main entities ticket, that doesn't matter. We don't need that at all. We can just capture promoter user ID. Motion. Promote ticket to planning item. Promote is not null. Our tests will break because I've just changed the code without changing tests. Ticket configuration, they go away. There's a test. Okay, so ticket is marked as promoted. Promoted by is not null. No, is didn't make it nullable. So let me review that again. I don't need that. That is nullable, right? So yeah, is promoted would be redundant there because this will be populated when it is promoted, and it can't be promoted again. That's a rule, right? One ticket can be promoted. A planning item could represent. So the goal will be, and the other thought will be, a ticket can become a planning item. That's a one-to-one. A planning item can become many stories, right? So this promotion will be way more difficult because my goal here is to flesh out planning items in such a way that it's kind of an organizational, it's an epic essentially, or it can be an epic. It could be a one-to-one, or it could be a one-to-many. So I'm still thinking about how I want to do this, and this is why I want to think about this component right now. Right? I think I want to focus on planning items as a feature, because I think it's very much something that I should consider an actual releasable piece of software. Okay, so let's make those tests pass now. This will fail. Or should fail. If it doesn't fail, that's not good. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so because I've based this around certain things, right, then this isn't going to be correct. So this is when ticket has not already been promoted, right? So that I have no promoted by user ID, and I go to promote, and I do expected promotion user identifier. Okay. So question is there the possibility that a planning item can be created on its own without a promoted ticket? Yes, it can be. Yeah. So in the planning item, in the planning application, you can add a new planning item. And yeah. So a ticket can be promoted to a planning item, and a planning item can be added independently. When the SQL, did you make that promotion user ready not nullable? Yes. Yeah, in SQL for tickets, yes. Yeah, it's not nullable. No, it's not. It's nullable. This is correctly nullable. This is the ticket side of things. On the planning item side of things, it doesn't. It's not a promotion. It's a when planning item. When this comes in here, it's promoted by user identifier, right? Now this gets in here, and in this side, that becomes the created by user identifier, right? So it has to be set here because it is created by this person. Is that what you're asking? Well, promoted by user ID in the ticketing system has to be nullable because it might not be promoted. What is the SQL for ticket? What's the state of that? It hasn't been promoted. Well, the ticket, when the ticket hasn't been promoted, it looks like that. Right? I mean, I know these have been promoted. Right? So this will let me promote it again because it's got no identifier. But if I go and promote it, let me get this. No, the test doesn't. The test doesn't work. Let's see how confident I am in the system doing what it should do. This token should be good. So I should be able to promote this ticket and see my user identifier. Oh no, what did I break? Ticket. Why are you now? So let's get a test to pass. That's probably fundamental to it. Promote ticket to planning item. So we're saying when we get a ticket, promoted by object null. No, I said that was nullable. That should just be null. Why does that not have? Oh, I know why. Because this is dynamically building the entity, right? I'm explicitly setting the values in this. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look. Let's go here. Let's put a breakpoint there. I know Dota considers this a failure. Dota considers having to debug unit tests as an actual failure. Not totally in disagreement too. Okay, so we pull the ticket. Our ticket looks like this. Why is that empty? Why is it empty? I didn't set it to. I thought I set it to nullable. It's nullable. Ah, the underlying pieces of. That's why. Run that again. There you go. That'll fix it. Okay. So let's try and promote that again now. There we go. Yeah, okay, so that worked. So now a promoted ticket looks like this, right? So now I shouldn't be able to promote this again. Because now that is a promoted ticket. I can't promote it because it's already promoted. So that's working as intended, right? Now, so when I promote a ticket, promoted by user identifier is configured. Oh, dogs. It's gonna be hard work. Should I do last updated? I mean, it's an update, right? Cool. Guess that question did get you to something. It was more than in the SQL file that creates a table. I thought you didn't add it. Yeah. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. You think I'd be better at this after this time, right? The quick flicking between screens when I'm thinking through something and I know where I'm heading, then um, like I'm okay at talking it through, but honestly, really. So one thing I could do here, probably should set last updated, right? Because that is a change in the ticket. What are your thoughts on having a dirty flag on this table for things like index cache? Um, on the table, we've used last update and tried querying for that, but it caused records to be missed. So So I'm leaning towards something that's a little bit more of a departure for me in this design, which means that I don't have to necessarily worry about that. Oh, dogs. So, I mean, my opinion on caching is caching should be transparent to this piece, right? I should not have to merge those concerns. Entity Framework by default does have the ability to put a cache layer in, so I can actually set an actual in-memory cache, and it will track objects that way. But one of the things I don't want to do is actually use this data as query. One of the challenges we often come up against is when we're building this design. I'm building this for capturing data. Good afternoon, Mr. Jones. I'm not building this for querying. So now when I come around and I go to query it, my needs of how I'm using the data are that was a me issue. I agree, but your data would have to be up to date while you query it. Yes. So that comes into eventual consistency a little bit in this design. That comes down to eventual consistency. My apologies. So again, in terms of caching, cache can be stale. Yes, absolutely. Eventual consistency is this concept of just because you know the data exists, it's not necessarily available straight away, right? It's the trust that because the system's kind of disconnected and the pieces are moving around, that eventually the system will be consistent, right? If I have a need for high availability of data, right, an eventually consistent system. So let's say I go to this pattern. Tickets are tickets, planning items. I store the data. When I store the data, I publish an event to say, oh, I publish to Kafka, here's the ticket, right? I have this view system built up that captures all those messages, right? If these are backed up, if the consumers of these are backed up, the data is not necessarily available right now, right? But eventually it will get there. So eventually the system will be consistent with what's actually in the back end. No customers like it. It's a reality of, do you want speed? Do you want optimization? And we're not talking about hours. And you see it all the time. Right? You see this all the time. Amazon, you've seen where products are slightly out of kilter. Some information doesn't quite match the product it's on. But then you go back afterwards and it's there. You go to look at a product and it's not available, but then you go to look again and it's there. That's eventual consistency, right? That could be Amazon hasn't cached that to a server that you're actually looking at it on yet, but now when you request it, that triggers an event that says, hey, I need this data, and it pulls that data down. There's all manner of ways of triggering it. A lot of customers don't like that concept, but the benefits outweigh the costs, and that's why understanding your system throughput is very important, right? So if I produce a ticket and I produce a planning item and I produce a story, if I store these in one normalized database that's highly optimized for the query, right, then my caching isn't as much of a problem because now I can access that data really quickly. I just have to accept that eventually that these may have some eventual consistency to them, right? So I might have stale data at some point. Now it's up to me when I'm producing these to make sure that no object is invalid, so I always get something back if something exists in the first place. So if a ticket exists and it became a planning item, I should be able to see that the ticket became a planning item, but maybe the planning item details didn't quite make it in yet, then I might not be able to see those pieces, right? So I've got to make sure that the system is at least stable and aligned. So it is a reality of the way that distributed systems work, in that if you want the data quickly, right, you either make some horrible decisions in the components, because if you think about it from a view perspective, if I'm looking at the application as a whole, I don't want to have to go to one system for tickets, one system to planning items, one system to stories, right? I could put APIs in front of these things, right? And then have an API layer that I go, oh, I'm going to tickets, I'm going to plan items, I'm going to stories in my application. Or I can build a UI that just talks to one system that says, hey, here's my data, what data. And this can scale independently of all these pieces, right? And eventually, when we're talking about eventual consistency, your design of the system is what dictates how long that's going to be. So if a customer notices it, so let's say you're working in a system that has stock availability, right? It might be a more complicated example, but I sell a product, right? It's important for me to know that that product's been sold so I can remove it from my inventory, right? If someone manages to go into this system at the right time, even in a non-distributed system, they could still manage to say, hey, that item's actually available because it's currently in the process of being updated and sold or whatever, right? So that's a case where you really want to make sure things are updated as quickly as possible. And Amazon, again, suffers from it, right? So how do you deal with that? Well, you have to have kind of policies in place for understanding, okay, if that actually isn't available, and you'll have had it before, right? Where you go to buy something and then you get a notification, I'm sorry, that isn't actually available. I mean, I've had that happen from Amazon, from other retailers, right? Where, sorry, it's actually out of stock. We can't actually provide that, right? That's just an eventual consistency thing where at the time I went in, the stock system said it was available, but something kind of jammed up a request and said, okay, now that's not available. So, when you recount, etc., it's not available. So stock is one of those things where you kind of really want to keep an eye on it, and you want to make sure, but that distributed messaging can do that. Hello, Patrick. Hello. How you doing? So I was watching Radio Patrick last night play 7 Billion Humans, which was that's a fascinating game. So Patrick does a bit of development, a bit of gaming, some movie nights, etc. You need to post a link. You just drop it in Discord. I can always bring it up on stream. The solution is reservation pattern. So yeah, there's obviously different techniques we choose to get around some of the challenges that we have. There are different practices. So in that case, when I go to check something out, I actually trigger an event that says, "Hey, this item is currently looked at." You've gone on sites where it says you've got 20 minutes to buy this or whatever, right? Lightning deals for Amazon, etc. Where what they do is they go say, "Okay, this is currently pending," right? So they lock that off so that when anyone else tries to get it, but it's still not perfect because someone could actually get in there. Because again, that distributed system gives speed. With speed comes cost and challenges in different ways. So one of the things I want to consider here, going back to the caching component, is I want to consider more producing this data out from each of these systems, consuming it into a normalized view. I did. It's fun hanging out and it's a good time. I apologize for missing the end of the stream. I did come in the raid, but I was away from the computer. Thank you. What up? Codeopinion.com. Is an opinion. Yeah. So reservation pattern, basically saying, hey, capture this thing, hold it off. Um, well, distributed basically. So you're saying, hey, don't hold off onto this thing, but I don't need this, right? Because again, my system requirements are very different, right? In my system, it doesn't matter if information is slightly out of date, right? Because you've got to be pragmatic about what are you trying to achieve, what do you need. We all have different names. There's different names for everything. Next year someone will invent a different name for a thing that looks like another thing that they once did. But they think that we just keep doing that. But in my system, I don't have to worry about eventual consistency to the extent of someone's going to get bent out of shape because they didn't get the order they wanted, right? If I'm dealing with something like, well, actually, coming back to the reservations concept, whether you look at airline reservations, ticket reservations, product reservation, product. The general concept is if you've dealt with any of those pieces, if you as a consumer, you've handled the situation more than likely of, sorry, we don't have that thing, right? So at some point it doesn't work, but they have to build that in. They have to build the concept of what happens when we can't actually deliver this thing. They have a fancy name. Mutexes doesn't do anything when inter-process communication. Name semaphores are great for that, but never used it. I mean, I'm not even talking that low level. I mean, essentially, from my perspective, I'm talking about message buses, right? So in terms of this article, right? We can implement the reservation pattern in code to solve similar types of problems. In the example of registration, we can create a reservation on a username at the beginning of the registration process. So this is just kind of locking off this thing. So all he's doing is username reservation sync. Yeah, he's literally storing in a list that name off to the side, right? When you come to distributed computing, again, time, right? So you've got to optimize your system for that sake. So in the case of distributed system, if my actual if I have an inventory system and I have a sales system, when I go to say, hey, I want to buy this item, that fires off a command to the inventory system to say, hey, please reserve this entry. That entry is then reserved, and when I complete my order, it says, hey, actually, that entry now, yep, that's actually been consumed, so you can reduce your stock number, etc. It's not perfect because that command is still constrained by the throughput of the system. So you've got to kind of, again, consider what the overall design of the system is, build for that system. There are so many challenges in doing this. Mutex is short for mutual exclusion and typically used within a single process to coordinate access to shared resources among different threads within that process. They ensure that only one thread can access a shared resource at a time, preventing risk. Yeah. Today they have a Valentine's breakfast to the office, so I have to go if I want to get some pancakes. Talk to you later. On the way your priorities are. Have fun, Junicus. Enjoy the pancakes. Before are just simple mutations, though. Yeah, I'd choose pancakes over coding. Absolutely. Ooh. Little doggy being noisy today. I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to take him out for a second. I think he just needs to get some fresh air. I'll be right back. Okay. Apologies for that. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm not going to get into the whole mutex versus semaphore. From my perspective, it doesn't really matter from the purpose of this discussion. So, ultimately, the what I was getting to was very much one of from a caching perspective, which is what I was trying to answer initially from Apex. No, I don't want to put a dirty flag on here. I want to move query away. The concept of being dirty at that point doesn't really make a difference because the information is either there or it's not there. From a caching perspective, the cache could have an expiration on it. It could have a short expiration, it could have a long expiration, etc. But I could tweak that and disconnect that. Would be what I'd aim to do. I'd try to make it so the caching layer, as it would be very much one layered in front of this, and I wouldn't really blend it into the database as a concept, right? I could live with long cache times because this information isn't going to change very frequently. And even if it does change, I can actually trigger the cache myself because I know that information has changed because I've got the event saying, hey, this actually did change. So I can invalidate the cache for any given item. So I can actually deal with that a more reactive in a more reactive way. So I have tickets. I have planning items. Keep clicking on that. A ticket can become a planning item. What does that actually mean? Well, a ticket is a support thing, right? It's a customer requests this feature. Customer says that the system is too slow, right? Support looks at that ticket and says, hey, there's a bit more going on here. There's some actual pieces that are really slow. They're not working correctly. And the product team says, okay, well, actually, that's beyond the realm of tickets because that's going to take several days or a sprint or more to fix because we actually need to make some architectural changes, right? So that's well beyond the scope of a support ticket. So now I'm going to promote that ticket to become a planning item. As a planning item, I can go through that and add information. I can do research. I can find out whatever I need to know to be able to present to the developers, hey, here's the problem. Here's the expected outcome. Right, here's what this should be, right? So I can work on that story, right? So the goal of making planning items a separate component from tickets versus stories is to give planning team actually some work in between, or some place in between that's very focused on their workflow rather than being a jumble, right? If you look at most sprint boards, they're not really for the developers or planning. They're for people to see where things sit. They're a reporting mechanism, not a useful productivity tool, right? If I look at how people use these tools, Sorcery, I think you use Kanban boards. Fullbots does. I don't know about Apex. I don't know if I've seen you use a Kanban board, but I know I've seen many developers use Kanban boards to present. Here's what I have. Is what I need to do. A Fullbots is pretty much the most, how do I put it? I'm not mean. His Kanban board is just ginormous. There's all sorts of items all over it, from what I've seen. And maybe everyone else's is. But game developers that I've seen using Kanban, they're using it as a planning tool. They're not using it as a tool to report to someone, hey, this is how many items I got completed. They're using it to say, here's what I need to do, here's what I am doing, here's when I'm finished. And that's what I want to represent with the planning items, right? The planning items are very much a Kanban board. And they're very much focused on evolution of those things, right? Tickets work well as a Kanban board because they're either being reviewed, i.e. they're not being worked upon, they're being prepared, Now they're being worked upon, and now they're done. Either done, promoted, or done. They've been fixed, and something's gone to production, right? Or there was nothing to do, right? So they have a few different outcomes, but ultimately they are in 3 states. Stories do have this. They have a similar pattern, right? And what happens is we add swim lanes to represent different things, but reality is we probably don't need to, right? But ultimately, planning items, which is where I'm going to focus initially, is really focused around this whole, hey, I need to add more information to this. Now I can actually progress this. Now it's ready for a developer to look at, review, and now pick up, right? So it's very much a productivity tool at that point, right? Not a reporting tool, right? Now, from the perspective of management, knowing how many items have yet to be planned, knowing how many items are currently in the process of being planned and what their review dates are, right, is useful. Because if I say, okay, let's go through this, and I probably need to go through some use cases here. Actually write them down and go through them, right? If I say, hey, this is slow. I'm going to read that first, because that I basically set up as a thing for the future. Right now I use it as here's what I need to do, what I'm doing, what is complete, but I also have a shipped column that I'll eventually use for bug fixing and stuff like that. Not using it right now, but the idea is to put everything there once people play it and start reporting bugs and such. Yeah. You're using it as very much a planning tool as to what work you have, what work you have to do, what work is complete. Right. Yeah. And that's my overall point here is one of developers don't care. You need that from your. You need that because you have a lot to do and you need to keep it in visibility. Right? You need to keep a visible track of where things sit and where things are moving around. On a day-to-day basis, you care about, I'm going to do that item today. That's it. Right? That's what you're working on. You're not going to lose track of that necessarily. And ultimately, if there was other people involved, they care about, is that progressing? And that's kind of what my review dates are meant to do, right? My review dates are, at this date, where does this sit? Let's review it, right? So it's kind of an automatic reminder system. So from the purpose, so from a ticket, let's say the ticket comes in, the user says this is slow. Support, look at the ticket and say, this is actually way more involved than anything we can do. There's some problems with the way the queries are working, and this needs to be done, is what we believe. They add their notes, and product say, okay, yeah, I agree, that needs to be promoted. So they promote it to a planning item. They promote it to a planning item so they can do a bit more research and dig into the whys or get more information. Right? Morning, Hannah. Oh, good day, Hannah Spander. It's your afternoon. And then they add more detail to that thing. They move it to in progress in their Kanban board. Yep, no worries. Radio Patrick, thank you very much for stopping by. Good to catch your stream last night. Thank you. See you again soon. So they now are working on that. So it's in progress. They set a review date of 4 days, right? They keep going. They keep asking for information, etc. They don't get information back, etc. They add notes to say, "Hey, requested this from someone. Requested this from someone." That review date comes up. The people in support will get a notification to say a review date has happened on this ticket. If a manager has attached themselves to that planning or to that ticket, they'll also get notified because they care about that ticket. they'll get notified that a review date has expired. Right? They'll get visibility. They'll be able to go and look at the item and see what progress has been made. If that product manager hasn't added any information to that ticket, well, they'll now chase the product manager and not the developer or whoever else. Right? There's no one else involved in that process. They can the product manager uses that as a kind of follow-up, and then keeps adding more information and gets what they need from that the other teams or whatever, and then adds the relevant information to the planning item. They now know what is necessary. They can present that to the team, so the team can say, "Yep, actually, that we know what needs to do there. We can make that a story, and they can promote it to a story, which then can be worked upon. And again, everyone involved will get notified. This planning item has now become a story. It's now in the work backlog, and it's got a review date of, 3 weeks out or 2 weeks out, whatever." Quick Graphs, thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. If you have any thoughts, questions, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to share. The stream is not one necessarily of all coding, although coding does happen. I promise. So that's kind of the way I'm heading. And then from a ticketing perspective, coding is a side dish. Well, people keep coming back, so I'm hoping that the content is a good enough balance of what they actually like to do. Magical code. So what I'm trying to do here, dulcet tones. Thank you. Isn't dulcet mean kind of boring? Dull. Oh, sweet and soothing. Okay, quite the opposite of what I thought it was. Hello there, first time viewer. What do you think of the vertical slice architecture? Can't decide which to use for my fun project. That wasn't being mean for a change. I appreciate it. Hi Sally the Goose, welcome. What do I think of the vertical slice architecture? If you're doing a fun project, so I take the attitude of, what do you know? What are you trying to achieve? And how complicated does it need to be, right? So this architecture here is aimed at being more clean architecture, or I really get bored of trying to put labels on architecture, because it is a very difficult thing to necessarily do. So this is not built as a single, vertical piece. I don't think you need to worry necessarily about architecture, especially if you're doing it for fun. I think writing the code in a clean and refactoring, easy to refactor. Not sure how to word this correctly. Up until this project, I have very much taken the attitude of, I will build something to make something work and then worry about how I tidy that up. Because if I write the code in nice components, nice, easy to reuse or easy to refactor components, then the overall architecture doesn't necessarily matter. If you're going, because if we go, let's go here, right? Vertical slice versus I'm just looking for diagrams. UI application domain DB, right? Let me open. So on Mondays and Tuesdays on stream, we'll go there in a second. And Sally, if you have opinions that you want to share, why are you even what are you considering that for? Feel free. The stream is very much one of discussion, so I don't mind having those discussions. And why would you consider that over? What would you consider it over? Why is it a consideration even? Lately, people complain about group. Yeah, so. How else do we put it? Layered architecture. Right. And images. Layered slice. So we recently started working on a project on Mondays and Tuesdays, water drink water, and it roughly follows that pattern. I wouldn't say it necessarily follows an architecture. It's more one of API application data. I'm kind of overwhelmed with all the different ones, and people seem really opinionated regarding which one is good. My previous projects have just been structured in the way I think is good without following rule sets. Some companies have a lot of people, so they can divide people group by group and assign a domain. Rule sets. Okay. Yeah. So this is kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing. People are always opinionated. People believe in right versus wrong, good versus bad, in terms of the right way to develop software. What matters is, can you be productive in your code, right? What do you need to deliver? How do you need to deliver it? Like Apex mentioned, right? Vertical slices can help if you need things to show off. So this is water drink water. We do this on Mondays and Tuesdays on the stream, and this is aimed at being a beginner or all level friendly project, right? It's meant to be a project that people can come in, get context of through the stream, and if they want to take on pieces, they can go on, do some of the code, or they can take the project and look at it and analyze what they think is good or bad. Right now, it's very much laid out in a rough way, in that we kind of have entry points for API, then it calls through to services in the application, and then those services invoke pieces. They get the data through repositories, etc. There are people that will come in the stream and say, well, they haven't, but there would be people that say that is bad, right? That is not following the rules, right? It's always easy to say that's wrong, but people need to be able to say, here's how it's wrong. And unfortunately, not many people do that. So I would say that no. This is you are literally asking a question that is very relevant to what I talk about all the time. So it is not interrupting the stream at all. This is perfectly fine. The difficulty with the vertical slice is that you have to be careful about coupling code to get. Well, that's a common problem, Apex. That's actually always a problem, and I think earlier on, right? So if you look at water drink water, right, we have API application data. This is a simple application built. This is available, by the way, if you want to go and check it out. And Sally, I realize that you're listening only, so the code I can't. There's no point in me showing you the code if you are actually only listening. But again, I came across a problem where something didn't quite fit. Okay. I came across a problem with this architecture. So this architecture is very much heavier than the water drink water application, but it's built for a different purpose, right? I'm focused on API. I'm not focused on UI, and I kind of like that disconnect, right? So when we're talking about vertical slice stuff, right? The presentation layer, I hate doing the presentation layer because it's something that I think is one that should have time taken, and also if you focus too much on the presentation layer, it can negatively impact everything that comes past it, right? and we tend to align what we see on the screen with what we have in the data, or vice versa. We tend to align what we have in the data with what we see on the screen, and it's not always the case. So I'm very much focused on trying to make sure that the architecture flexes. So for water, drink water versus liquid sky, this is broken up into services. There's application, there's way more stuff in here. This is following clean architecture in theory. I'm still not sure there. Take care, Hannes Panda. Thank you very much for stopping by. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and maybe see you later in Canny's stream. So, and again, different experiences of dealing with this, right? Apex, you may have worked in environments where actually a good structure was in place and it was easy to do some certain things. Yeah, got it. Thank you. Depends on the task and preferences. Right. So I'd say if you're doing a fun project, just write something. Right? Just go ahead and write something, and don't worry too much about what people think. Feel comfortable with it, and just as you hit problems, try and figure out how you're going to get around them, and try and keep some of those core concepts in mind. Right? It's definitely better to have a project that is fun and put together in a way that you understand it than it is to worry about what someone else thinks you should do. I spent way too long thinking about that. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, if you ever want to look at stuff, or you want others to bounce ideas off, my Discord is a good place to go there. There are people in there who have a range of experience, and I'm sure would join in on conversations if you need. But I'm always open for this sort of discussion. So, yeah. Plus, if you're learning stuff, it's better to just output some code, get things working, and look at how to improve. Right. But it often falls into if you're doing it for work, right? And this is one of the challenges. If you're doing something for work, you often fall into a pattern of, okay, I did that last time, I'll do it again, because it's more pragmatic to move forward and get the work done, which means you don't get to learn, right? So if you're doing it for your personal project stuff, then flexing that and trying new ideas or trying to learn and grow is where it becomes you got to try and follow that learning path, and not be afraid. And I spent way too long afraid of the right way. Yeah, work is very stagnant. Yeah. My personal project taught me way more about programming recently in a short time than I learned on the job. Right, you did a lot. You did a lot of stuff in the game project, and you got to learn some new techniques and some new tools. The first time I heard the phrase, I think it was Scott Hanselman. Shot. Suddenly became Sean Connery. Scott. Hanselman. And you have a hammer. Can't remember the edge. It's like when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So it's kind of like when you learn something new, interfaces, right? Everything looks like a nail. You can tackle everything with this interface or this technique or this technique. And I think I heard him as the first one that mentioned that. Right. So when you're learning something, it's very much common to kind of overuse something. and then you learn more about its usage and you kind of scale it back again. But it's leaning into that learning that's important, I think, and it's not worrying about what other people might think, or sometimes I've done things on the stream, I've done things in this project that people have not picked up on, right? And I've talked about them. There's choices I've made, and I don't know which ones exactly right now. I've made the choice quickly in the moment to move it forward. Some of them I've called out, some of them I haven't, but it's, again, I want to give those opportunities for discussion, and at some point they'll come around, right? Junicus is very good at doing that for me. He does assist a lot in that respect. It was insane, but we weren't worried about right or wrong. We were worried about what seems cool and fun. Yeah. Don't start an interface. I'm still a big fan of I as an interface. I still use it. Right. Microsoft still uses it as much as they might not want to, because it's just if I'm using it, and I suppose it's less now. You've got implementation of interfaces. It's kind of messier, but yeah. I do that all the time too. Sometimes I just want stuff to progress, and I'm definitely afraid that people will find it boring, me just sitting there thinking for half an hour on something. Yeah. I mean, I've made a stream out of it. People seem to come into the stream, and seem. I mean, I get more engagement. I mean, the reality is, from my perspective, I want to show what software development is. I don't want to show what the good parts are, right? But that's my thing, right? I want to make sure that I'm sharing the pain as much as I am sharing the success, right? It's gonna sound really pretentious, like the struggles I go through with how to design the code, how to write the code out, what I do, how I approach it. Those might seem like boring things, but the things we all have to go through. And I think that showing those things might help someone who is less experienced understand, okay, well, this person's been doing this for a while. They still do this. Okay, I feel better about myself. I feel like I can do that and I can tackle that problem. Or, oh, actually, I know how to do that differently. Hey, have you tried it this way, right? Because again, I do believe in, just because I've done it for a while doesn't mean that I don't know everything. So I kind of share the internal struggle externally as well. I like it when it contains verbs like I provide. I mean, I'll be honest, I've had fun with interfaces before. So I just do what comes to mind and get things going. Yeah. You shouldn't worry about having to think about the code. If you want to think about the code, you shouldn't have to worry about that. And I think, again, we have kind of crossover people in communities, and we have our own little communities that kind of that tag along, and building those communities and engaging them is means that you can do that sort of stuff because they understand you, understand your way of working, etc. So I think you should definitely. I mean, obviously, you should be comfortable on stream to do what you want to do. But my personal perspective is, and I'm deathly nervous every time I stream. I wish I could get over this, but I'm always nervous. So maybe I talk too much because that is something I normally do. They're cool as a cucumber. No, I'm super nervous. I should do that too, but I get way too self-conscious about it. Yeah, nervousness is just excitement in disguise. But I love doing this, right? So that's kind of why I share it. Sally, did I say thank you for the follow? I don't get nervous anymore since I don't have any viewers. You have viewers. Just a lot. Again, I think it's the same as me. But when I get into this, the conversation dies down because I think there's a lot more that people can't just engage in. And with your stuff, there's a whole lot of stuff to learn. I think You do have viewers, you just don't have any. You don't have a lot of interaction all the time. But you know your stuff. Mr. Anholm, by the way, is working on a game platform built in the cloud, and it is definitely worth checking out. He's been working on it for a few years, but it there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of techniques in there. Yeah, I did notice that I would get more interaction when I was not working on the platform. That's kind of why I mixed in drink water with this, because this is a little heavy and people can't necessarily align to it. But this also shows what I consider real development to be. Whereas drink water is more fun. People can interact if they want to. And they can also look at the code. So it's kind of, it's a balance, right? And I ask all the time, what do you as a viewer want to see on the stream, right? This stuff seems to be helpful, right? This conversation. Twitch viewers do love bot dev. Interactivity. I don't have a lot of interactivity on the stream. It's something I do want to work upon. But as I get more into this, what I actually want to do is, once I get to this phase where I've got planning items focused on, I actually want to interact with my Twitch bot and start dogfooding this piece, but allow the stream to actually add items in. So visibly on stream, be able to type it can do it in the chat, and then it will put it onto the screen and file it for me. So I kind of do want to do that. So I might take a bit of a diversion for a few weeks doing that. Buy a robot arm and let chat control it. I still think Rambling Geek is asking for trouble, even considering that with you. I just have visions of Rambling Geek getting slapped across the face by a robot arm. I struggle a lot with wanting interactivity, but not just adding stuff that detracts from what I'm doing. It's a tough balancing act. So if you look at the big streamers, the big dev streamers, the commonality is they have either a lot of entertaining features, or they are just in general more outgoing and interactive and yeah, I think you have to be okay with some detraction from what you're doing. If you're streaming, you absolutely cannot be 100% focused on doing what you're doing. And I think sorcery, that's why you balance your streams to just a few times a week, or several times a week, but a few times a week rather than having it all the time, because you realize that you might not always be productive while streaming. Edgy ideas and sound arguments to back it up. But for me, I'll be honest, my viewer numbers and retention have been improving the last couple of weeks. I don't know if it's anything I've done differently. It's just more the people that I've actually managed to have come into the stream and hung around, and which I thank you all for. The conversations that we've had in the last couple of weeks alone have been fantastic, right? I love this sort of stuff. I love interacting with other developers. I don't get to do this on a daily basis with anybody else, right? My job does not involve interaction with other teams or other developers very often. So I kind of do really appreciate talking with other smart individuals, and Chris Jones, about software development, about practices and patterns and all these fun things. So it is fun to do this stuff. I think that's the key. When you're doing software development, the biggest thing you can do is have fun. Right? Enjoy yourself. Don't be constrained by what other people expect you to do. Be open to learning. Right? Just have fun with what you're doing. I'm actually very productive while streaming, even with all the distractions, though. That's why I like doing it so much. That's awesome. I like Jonathan Blow. He's a genuine. Yeah, Jonathan Blow is a you get what you get. You get what you see. Right? He's not. Yeah, other individuals and Chris Jones and immediately gets an ad. I have no idea if this is good or bad. Probably the latter. No, it was fine. I just don't stream every day because the days I don't stream on, I have a very erratic schedule. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's great that you get the productivity. Welcome back, Mr. Jones. So, oh, can't do it. Chris Jones is worth a follow as well. He's just started getting back into streaming. He's on his quest for his affiliate, and he's been working on. Last night he was working on email templating stuff. He does a lot of business stuff, and he's going to stream more. So worth a follow. Okay, so what have I achieved today? I've achieved what I wanted to do, right? I can't. It won't let me. I don't have a bot open, and I've run out of my. I think I. It will let me do that. There you go. There you go. So. He's been a little bit shy about getting back into streaming. He has tried streaming several times over the last 5 years, and he's recently just started streaming again. You need some capable mods. I do. I do. I modded. On Saturday night I streamed and I modded Satolix, and he timed out Deflux because Deflux was being a bit difficult. It was just that was a good stream for trolling. What are these mods you speak of? Yeah. Only 2 people currently have mod on this channel, but I never really need any mods, so it was only for the pure trolling perspective that yeah. I wouldn't say shy as much. I was there. Oh, no, I didn't. The reason I was going to do it, but I didn't. I didn't have the. I didn't think I had the shout out ability because obviously it time limits it. Yeah. I have very strict chat rules. That might be also why I don't get super lot of interaction. It's been so long since I've seen your chat rules. Maybe I should check them out. You need a mod though. Everyone is so chill. Now this. I think my way of presenting, my way of discussion, attracts people from just in general. I think it attracts people who are willing to talk and happy to converse, and that's the way I want it to be. So, yeah. Have loose rules but a strong ban hammer. Okay, you have the need to verify email. Satolix does that, and Satolix gets that's fine. Oh, Satolix. I never know how to actually say that properly. I had my first bot rite of passage asking if I wanted to buy followers. £1,000, good deal. Yeah, you should take them up on that. Engaging troll mode. I think that's fine. I think needing the verified emails. I don't think I have very strict rules on who can come in. You should have those bot rules and verified email. I once required phone verification. My Twitch team did not like it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't even get many of them in the stream. No. Although I shouldn't say things like this because last time I did this, I got the weird viewer that that then became normal and started talking about code that I was worried I'd have to ban. Then was actually contributing, which was really fantastic. But I don't often get people. Yeah. Again, the only thing I expect is people keep the language polite. And civility just comes by part of just being decent human beings who know how to get on with other human beings. So I think the stream does good in that respect. But no, yep, Apex, me too. I got to get going as well in a short while. So, my apologies if anybody was not expecting the end of the last half hour of the stream to be pure conversation. I really do appreciate it though, because I think I've had fun just hanging out and chatting a little bit. You say that with a 10 bulleted list. Okay. What do my chat rules actually say? Where do I see them? I'm not in the actual stream. Where do I set them? Panel. Where do you set those rules? I think it'd be easier. It breaks the 500. Family friendly stream. I'm an adult and won't judge bad language, but would appreciate me not having to worry about it. Be constructive, helpful, and polite. I'm not streaming to pretend I know everything. It's okay for me to say I don't know. It's okay for you to say you don't know. Think you have a better way of doing something, offer to talk me through it. I'm open to learning. Which rarely have people actually done that. Don't be offended if I don't take your suggestions. As in the example, be excellent. Yeah. That's actually, I think that's a Bill and Ted's quote that Twitch actually put in there. Everyone seems to start working now. Meanwhile, I'm in daily finishing the day. Yeah. You in Australia or whereabouts in the world are you? If you don't mind me asking. Okay. Turkey, okay. Nice. I do like that. Yeah. Nice, 5 o'clock. I wish it was 5 o'clock. I like that streaming opens up to the world, right? Culturally, you get to experience if you're open to it, you get to experience a lot of different perspectives. So anyway, does anybody have any recommendation on who we should raid? Looks like we're losing viewers fast because people are signing off anyway. So many game devs, not a lot of actual app devs on Twitch at this point. Really hard. So if anyone wants to corner the market on an app dev at this point in the day, you should definitely start streaming app dev because I will join. Like, there's some awesome game devs, but I also like being productive. Because game dev is obviously very distracting. Even the Captain Coder's doing game dev stuff. If only it didn't work during this time. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually probably the best time to stream because I think European viewers or Eastern viewers in general are more interactive and a bigger part of these sorts of streams. Well, viewers east of us. Yeah, so European generally, right? Viewers generally interact more Yeah, this is a good time in the day to be streaming what we do as well. But anyway, I do have to end. So I know that it doesn't necessarily, it's not exactly on task, but I'm going to go over to Fullbots anyway. So I'm going to take you over to Fullbots. He's got one person in there right now. So let's go see Fullbots. I would recommend checking out his game. He didn't do a very good job of showing it yesterday, but his game is very fascinating. I would recommend if you like puzzle games and stuff, giving it a look. So let's go see Fullbots. I don't want to keep reading Captain Coda because it's a bigger stream and I have to run. Yeah, it's not on the same thing as we're doing. So please say hello to Fullbots. He's a fun guy, and he has interaction. So I will see you again tomorrow. I'll be back with more of this. Now I get to go do some planning because I've got more to go. So thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow, hopefully. Take care. Bye all.